Well, how are you doing? This video is going to be about the destruction that is 7 over 6 or 7 over 6 of a radius refraction calculation that is claimed to be a constant in our world by our opposition. So 7 over 6 r is claimed to be a constant. We always see everything refracted at that rate. So we never ever experience what we never ever experience um, the heliocentric globe out. We never experience that. We experience everything at a refracted rate of that globe out. That's what we're told. That's the claim from our opposition. Okay. Now, obviously, I don't. I don't believe that nonsense, and it's easily disproven by the likes of the black swan. It just doesn't exist. Nobody in reality takes it into account. It's not taken into account in celestial navigation. Uh, our opposition thinks it is, but there is nowhere in any of the almanacs where they account for 7 over 6r. They account for refraction, yes, celestial refraction below 15 to 20 degrees above the horizon. They don't account for 7 over 6r. That's only something that is added in, doesn't happen. There is no 7 over 6r with the dip correction. That's a load of rubbish. It's all there, all the evidence is there in the almanacs. So anyone telling you that is lying, or they just don't know what they're talking about. So 7 over 6r is not part of celestial navigation. It's not part of anything. The only thing it's part of is a claim, a heliocentric globe claim. Okay. Now, in my last video, I pointed out a massive globe contradiction, a massive paradox, a mathematical paradox within the heliocentric model. I'm going to go over that again now with just a little bit more detail, and then I'm going to add on some stuff to this 7 over 6 or disaster. That's what I'm going to call the video, the 7 over 6 or disaster, because it is a disaster. Now, in the last video I pointed out how 7 over 6 or does not compute and cannot compute and match 16 nautical miles per degree. Okay, so let's get stuck in. Okay, so here we have, so we have a circle, right, with two circles, right, one bigger than the other. So this circle here, let's just say, there's a 45-degree angle. So every circle, regardless of its size, whether it be a tennis ball, a basketball, or heliocentric Jupiter, they all will have 360 degrees. So this means that there will always be 360 degrees of measurement from the center of any circle or sphere around its circumference at any time. But this also means that there will also be 21,600 minutes of degree around its circumference. So from here right around and back to here, regardless of the size of the circular sphere, there will always be 21,600 minutes of degree. If you're taking the degrees from its center, right, it'll always have that, right? So it doesn't matter if the circle is this size or the circle is this size or this size or this size. It'll always have the same amount of degrees within it. It'll always have the same amount of minutes of degree. Okay, so if this circle here was the globe Earth, let's just say, right, then between here and here, right, from the center, there would be 45, just over 45 degrees. Okay, now that would be close on 2,700 minutes of degree. Now this is how they measure nautical miles within the, or they don't measure, they calculate the nautical miles within the globe model. It's a hijacking of the celestial sphere model, is what they do. And the celestial sphere model is just an orthographic representation of flat horizontal plane measurements of perspective. That's all it is. That's where it all comes from. It's all back engineered from flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris. That's where the globe comes from. But they had to hijack the celestial sphere model. So what they did is, I could have done the same with a tennis ball, but right, they just took the celestial sphere model and they placed a globe instead of, so let's say this baseline here is the celestial sphere model, the base of the celestial sphere model, and this is the roof of it. It's just a protractor. That's all it is. Um, and if I took a circle and placed it right on to this protractor to match the size of the protractor, I can then claim that circle as any size I want. I can claim it's any size I like because I can match um, I can match that size with the degrees, right? I can match it the size with the degrees, and I can turn those degrees, convert them into statuette miles or inches or whatever I want, because I will have a nautical mile measurement on its surface because I'll have a minutes of degree measurement on its surface. So it doesn't matter if it's a tennis ball, the globe Earth, heliocentric Jupiter, heliocentric Polaris, doesn't matter what it is, the size doesn't matter. I can hijack a protractor by putting a circle over it to match the protractor size, and then I can claim it's any size. Right? That's what they did with the globe. But the problem is this, right? From here to here will be about 2,700 minutes of degree. So within the heliocentric paradigm, that would be 2,700 nautical miles, right? That's how they measure the nautical miles. Now, this actually destroys them in a different way. I'm not going to go into now. I mean, utterly destroys them. But this also utterly destroys them. But the other way is just so simple. But anyway, we'll get back to that at another date. We have that, let's just say, in the backpack. But the thing about it is this, right? They have to claim, right, because of a necessity, they have to claim that 7 over 6R is a constant within our world. That means we are never seeing or experiencing and will never experience a globe Earth, right, with a radius of 3,959 miles. So according to them, we are never ever experiencing that. We are only ever experiencing a refracted size, which is bigger than the globe Earth. So a refracted 7 over 6 size makes the globe Earth bigger. But it doesn't change the angle. So I can move this up, or sorry, down, up, whatever way I want. As long as I'm keeping a circle, that angle will never change. So if I go from here and make the globe bigger, make it this size, the angle stays the same. I'll still get the same 2,700 minutes of degree along its circumference between these 2 points, and I can still turn each one of those minutes of degree into a nautical mile. So I'll still get 2,700 nautical miles. But this is the problem. This is where it all falls apart. Because they need to claim both 7 over 6 or refraction, that's 7 over 6 of the radius, 3959 radius, but they also need to claim 60 nautical miles per degree, right? Now, regardless of the size of the globe, right, they can always claim 60 nautical miles per degree because there's always going to be 60 minutes of degree within a degree, and each one of those minutes will become a nautical mile. So that's not a problem. But this is where the problem lies. Once they make this bigger, right, once they make their globe bigger, right, the conversion rate becomes a problem. What do I mean by conversion rate? I'll show you what I mean. Okay, in reality, 60 nautical miles per degree equals 69.048 statuette miles. When 7 over 6R is added to the globe Earth's radius value, it is then no longer 3,959 statuette miles, as then the radius becomes 4,618.83 statuette miles, and the circumference becomes 29,006 statuette miles, as opposed to 24,860 statuette miles. But this then means that 1 degree cannot be 69.048 statuette miles anymore, as now 1 degree is 80.5729 statuette miles due to the 7 over 6R radius change. So the conversion rate from 1 nautical mile to 1 statuette mile is no longer 1.1508, as now due to 7 over 6R, the conversion rate rises to 1.3428. So this means 2 things. One, that globe believers can either claim 7 over 6R and relinquish 60 nautical miles per degree, or Two, that globe believers can claim 60 nautical miles per degree and a geometric horizon. That means they have to claim a geometric horizon, but they must relinquish 7/6 or refraction. That means they have to stop. They can't claim the horizon is refracted. They must claim it's geometric. They can't claim both, as the two are mathematically paradoxical and contradictory within their maths. Just so you know, 60 nautical miles per degree works perfectly in reality with the reality horizon. 60 nautical miles with the reality horizon will always get you 69.48 statute miles, always using reality. But if we are to pre-assume that we are on a globe and everything is refracted at the rate of 7/6R, then that changes everything, because and this is why it changes everything, because your degrees are coming from a center point, and that center point is based right from the center point to the circumference has a radius and a diameter. And once you change the size of that circle or that sphere, then you change the size of the radius. So you change the conversion rate from nautical to statute miles. But they are trying to claim both 7/6R, which is a bigger circle than a bigger sphere than their official claim, and they're trying to claim 60 nautical miles per degree still makes 69 statute miles. No, it cannot. It makes 69.048 statute miles in reality. It cannot and does not make 69 statute miles within their model with 7/6R added in. It makes 80.57 statute miles. So just to show you how ridiculous it is. So this is how ridiculous this becomes. 69.048 multiplied by 36 degrees equals 2,485.728 statute miles. But 80.5729 statute miles by 36 degrees equals 2,900.6244 statute miles. So if we subtract 2,485.728 from 2,900.6244, we get 414.8964. That means so there's an extra 414.8964 extra statute miles are incurred due to this 7/6R disaster. So straight away within their model, see, in reality, we don't have to claim that the horizon is a refracted position. It's just a horizontal position out from us. That's all it is. And we measure basically a parallel sky, a sky that's horizontal parallel to another horizontal parallel underneath it. Besides mountains, hills, valleys, yes, right, we have a horizontal baseline to the earth. And when you measure degrees that way, because we're measuring perspective, when you measure degrees that way, there is no problem. 60 nautical miles will always be 69.048 statute miles, always. But when you change, if you're trying to measure from the center of a sphere and you change the size of that sphere, and it's a constant change, it's not just a change now and again, it's not like it changes now and again, it's a constant 7/6R. It's a constant within the heliocentric model. They need it. They can't claim, because they couldn't claim that that we were on a globe and we didn't experience that, because nothing would look like it's supposed to look. So they have to claim that the globe is bigger to give us the impression that we're seeing further due to refraction. But the truth is, it's nothing to do with refraction, because we can get 60 nautical miles to match 69.048 statute miles at all times, everywhere. Now, you couldn't do that if we were on a globe Earth that had that was refracted at a rate that had the horizon and everything refracted at a rate of 7/6R. It would be impossible, right? You would always get, right, and this is if it stayed at 7/6R, you would always get 80.5729 statute miles per degree. Now, people in our opposition have claimed that you can have not just 7 over 6R. You can have is it infinite over 6R? Some of them have claimed that much, that you can have, because when 7 over 6R didn't solve the problem, they claimed there's more than 7 over 6R. We have characters within our opposition who've claimed all kinds of things. What was the claim? There was definitely an infinite over 6R, but I've heard I do remember other ones from other characters. So they were claiming all kinds of things, right? So that means a bigger sphere again. So when we see too far, right, for the globe model, ridiculous at all it is to say that at this stage, they have to claim there's more refraction. It's like with the Black Swan photograph, they were trying to claim the horizon is refracted, giving them a sphere that would be the size of, that would have a radius the size of the distance between their globe Earth and their heliocentric moon. It's like 280,000 miles or something like that. You know, it got that ridiculous. But that's fine. They can keep claiming all this nonsense, but it will never. But the conversion rate between nautical and statute mile will change within that model as soon as that globe Earth is said to be any bigger, right, than a 3959 radius. Then straight away that conversion rate in reality would have to be different. The conversion rate in reality isn't different. We see the reality sea horizon. We can use that to get our latitude with Polaris. We can navigate on the oceans using just reality. We can fly across the world using just reality. If we had 7 over 6R, none of that would be possible. It would all be a mess. We wouldn't. It would all be a total mess, like, because our degrees would never, like, not that you can have degrees on a globe, you can't, because they don't have any perspective within our maths, but that's besides the point. It's just the whole lot would be a mess. So 7 over 6R completely debunks the whole 16 nautical miles per degree being 69.048 statute miles. So they have to either claim that they have 7 over 6R or claim that they have 60 nautical miles per degree and the horizon is geometric, giving them 69.048 statute miles only within their maths, because in reality there's none of that. We don't have a curved Earth, but within their maths, right? But that would mean also claiming that the horizon is geometric only, never refracted, geometric only, which is debunked in about 2 seconds when someone gets a photograph of the horizon not being where it has to be if it were on a globe and it's geometric and the size of the radius is 3959 miles. So that's destroyed straight away. But either way, if they want to claim anything, they have to choose between 7 over 6R or 69 statute miles per degree, because they can't have both. They can't claim 60 nautical miles if it's not going to be 69 statute miles. And they're not going to have 69 statute miles for every degree if their globe is always refracted at a rate of 7 over 6R. So let's just move on, but wait, there's more, right? This is just a few questions. So first one, how would an airplane land successfully on the runway of an airport if the pilot couldn't be sure whether he or she were landing on solid ground? How would a pilot deal with 7 over 6R? Right, hang on. Right, so I made a little diagram for this. Right, so there is this green curve here, right? That's the actual geometric globe Earth, right? This orange line here that's slightly curved is the 7 over 6R refraction. This circle here is where the pilot should be aiming for to land. Not that I believe any of this would work on a globe, but just for humour. But due to 7 over 6R refraction, the pilot is aiming for out here. Now, it's not too bad when they're up high maybe, but the closer they get to ground, the further they feel they have to aim for. So the pilot is aiming to land here, wheels down, all ready to go. We're just landing, everybody. And no, we're not. What happens then? What happens when the pilot doesn't land? Where do they end up going? What happens then? Do they smash into the other side of the globe here? That's 7 over 6R couldn't work. How would a plane land? Never mind how would aerospace even exist. How would a plane land if aerospace did exist? How would it land? Because it's going to be trying to land in a place that the airport is not. This is where the airport runway is, but it's trying to land over here. It would be absolutely impossible to work. Absolutely impossible. So, how would that ever happen? 7/6R. That was number one. Number two, how could you get your correct latitude at sea using Polaris, a marine sextant, and the natural sea horizon if it was a refracted position? How could you ever get your correct latitude at sea? You couldn't. You could never get your correct latitude with Polaris because if you were on a globe, the latitude, as I showed before, the latitude has to, in one of my previous videos there in the past 2 weeks, your latitude on a globe, look at any globe in any classroom or any antique shop, and you'll see there is, look at even Google Earth, you will see latitudes on the physical globe. But how could you get your latitude if the horizon is refracted? You couldn't get your latitude if the horizon was refracted. It'd be impossible. You couldn't get it. Now, so you do know, you can get your latitude, your correct latitude, using the reality sea horizon without any 7/6R claims added in. But not if it was a globe. Once they add in 7/6R, then your latitude will not match. Your refracted latitude, what you think is your latitude, that will never match the actual latitude. It'll never work. You could not get your latitude, your correct latitude at sea using Polaris and a marine sextant and the natural sea horizon if it was a refracted position. You could not do that. It would be impossible. 3. How would geodetic surveyors know that the angles and measurements they were taking were correct and true if the land they were surveying was constantly refracted up from its actual position, as nothing could ever be measured correctly under those conditions? How would you ever know if you're standing high on a mountain and you have a theodolite and you're trying to measure angles between a couple of other mountains that you see? How do you know that they're in those positions? If it's all refracted at a rate of 7/6R, how are you ever going to survey correctly? You won't. That's why they survey everything horizontal and vertical and then add in R afterwards. It's not that they start off with R. They have to add it. They can't do any of it. They measure everything horizontal and vertical, and then they add in R. But if everything was refracted at a rate of 7/6R, they'd never be able to do this correctly. All their measurements would always be wrong because it would change the distances between the two mountains. Because once the sphere gets bigger, you blow up a balloon halfway, and then draw something on it and blow it up a bit more, that drawing will stretch out. So all the angles, all the sizes, everything else, not that they can have angles or angular sizes or any of that on the heliocentric model, because it's all orthographic, there is no perspective or angles within that model. But besides the point, that doesn't change the ridiculousness of this. You couldn't do it. Everything would be in the wrong position. You wouldn't be able to do it. 4. How could anyone have ever navigated at sea using a refracted horizon, as no angular measurement could ever be trusted? How you could never trust it. You don't know. You can never ever trust what you're doing. You can never trust the sea horizon because it's a refracted position. And what happens if it ends up being refracted more than 7/6R? You have nothing solid to go on. Everything is always not where you think it is. So how are you going to navigate there? How are you going to get anything correct? You won't, because you might think that you're getting an angle to something. Not, you can't have them on a globe, but just throw them in anyway. You might think you're getting an angle to something that's let's say 36 degrees, and it turns out that it was actually 45 degrees. It's just the horizon was 27 degrees. It just turns out the horizon was extra refracted or something. It's nonsense. It'll never work. None of these things would work. 5. How could latitudes ever exist if we could only ever see and experience a refracted horizon, as the measuring of latitudes would be impossible? It would be impossible to ever measure latitudes. They would not exist if 7/6R. If we were on a globe and 7/6R existed, it would never ever happen. Because all your latitudes, as I showed in previous videos, your latitude is but it's always measured between the sea horizon, if you're at sea with a sextant, but from official sources, they said it in my previous video, one of my previous videos in the past 2 weeks. It's from measured between the sea horizon and Polaris. That's how you get your latitude. It's all based on Polaris. But if the horizon is always refracted, then you're never going to know your correct latitude. How could you ever get your correct latitude? If we were on a globe and the horizon is refracted, your latitudes would never work. We would never have latitudes. There's nothing you could trust to get them. You could never use Polaris to get your latitudes. It's just a thing in the sky. You'd never use it for. How could you use it if everything you're looking at is somewhere else? Nothing that you're seeing is ever where it's supposed to be. So you could never ever get latitudes. There would not be latitudes. They would not exist. But in reality, we can use the natural sea horizon and Polaris and get the horizon that's claimed to be refracted at a rate of 7/6R within their globe model. But all that aside means nothing, because in reality, we can get our correct latitudes using the natural sea horizon and Polaris. And we always can get it correct. Always. In reality. So that's the end of that. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people making stupid comments in the comment section, coming in with stupid stuff, trying to throw in stuff about how celestial navigation, this and 7/6R, it doesn't make, because I've already had people say that, it doesn't make the globe bigger. Yes, it does. That's the point of it. I really wish that these people that are our opposition would actually learn their own model, because I am 100% convinced that I would school at least 95% of them on their own model. That's sad. They're fighting tooth and nail for something they don't even understand. They couldn't tell me anything about flat earth I don't already know. But I could tell them things about their globe they don't know. About their heliocentric model they don't know. It's sad. No doubt we'll have a lot of stupid comments. I suppose I just have to tolerate that nonsense. Thanks for watching.